So, making a start on the Blenheim. I've got to be honest with you, it's nice how it goes together. Yeah, it is quality. So, our fuselage done, painted in the XF-71, the interior chromate green, holes drilled out for the bomb racks. Fit is very good. That aft area won't need any filler, maybe a little bit of filler here, maybe a bit here, but you know, I'll hit it with a base and see how much we need. I might put some Mr. Surfacer on there, then just take it back. So that's pretty good. Upper wing surface done. Internals fitted. Again, I'll hit them with a base grey and then the green on both faces. And the cockpit area elements ready for painting as well. So assemblies like this for the seat I think are really nice. Yeah, it is a bit fiddly, but I do like how it goes together and I do like what it presents, so I can't deny I'm enjoying it. There's a nice sense of construction to it, which is always particularly pleasing. So yeah, it's pop bounce trundling along quite well. Anyway, I'm going to get the sprays out, I'm going to get the airbrush out and start building up the basic internal coats and layers. Again, right, I've been working on the cockpit and it's ready. This is the main stuff on it done. So seat sorted, medium level of weathering on it just to give some idea, give some tonal variation and that side of on the more high wear areas. Seat belts just made out of tape, trimmed and attached. Bomb stroke navigators position. The cockpit side walls, instrument panel. Now I scratch built some rudder pedals for it. They are a bit oversized, I make no bones about that, but they'll be clear of the floor, which is the main thing. Probably they are a little bit on the long side. The ones that you get if you do photo etch, which didn't come with the kit, are more like stirrups. So they're an indication, they are the presence of rudder pedals rather than anything else. Wings, fuselage together. There's going to have to be a bit of filler work around there. Not too sure about that join line here. May actually end up with that I'm not happy about. I think that ruins the look slightly, and there's definitely have to be something done about the join there. Sanded back, it's going to need a little bit of rescribing here. That was done with Mr. Surfacer. I'm going to sand that back a little bit further, but I do like the way it goes together. I like this method of construction. So next phase, I'm going to have to start with the glazing, getting all these panels masked up so I can attach the panels to the nose and then bring the fuselage, nose fuselage halves together. So I think it's going at quite a nice rate, to be honest. So yeah, really no major issues or concerns with this. It's nice tactile assembly so far with a bit of painting. I'm reasonably happy with the way it's going, and we'll just see how it progresses. So this is progress on the Blenheim. It's going along quite well, as you can imagine, being one of the more recent Airfix kits. Main fuselage together. Bit of filling and sanding here, but nothing too excessive, and some of that created more by my own modelling issues. I need to tidy up there a little bit. Fit of the nose section, and this kit is notorious for it. Required shimming and filling, so around here is definite issues, but that's easy enough to work through. The Bombay doors needed blending in. Now, as I say, because I'm trying to do this series of builds in ways that I normally don't build my models. This is actually going to have its Bombay doors open, the cockpit canopy open. I should have cut the gunner's position open, but I'm not too worried about that. I've prepared the base for it. Well, I've got a base that's based on the picture frame. That needs some work. So it's going to be sat something like that. The figures I've got for this, well, these are British 8th Army figures, I believe, ISI stroke Italieri artillery crew, and they seem quite suitable for RAF ground crew in the Far East. So, shorts to boots, tin hats. So I'm going to use these 3 figures with possibly the officer standing on with the 2 ground crewmen working on the aircraft or around the aircraft. So these are going to form it. Maybe something to do with the loading process. So it'll have the main ordnance in the hanging from there, visible, and the secondary ordnance in the process of being loaded up. I'll sort out maybe some boxes or stowage for that. I'll have to look those up. So I'm quite happy with the direction this is going. The engines, in all fairness to Airfix, I think they've done a nice job here. Lots of detail there. Yeah, some bits of it were a bit fiddly and not too sure about the fit in some other places, but it's a good quality kit without a shadow of a doubt, and I think it builds up very nicely. So I'm probably going to leave this off in the main painting and then paint them separately. The next stage is to blank the cockpit off, blank the rear turret area off, and start hitting it with the main coats. I've got to spray out the Bombay. I've had to put in shim strips because you've got poor fit here, so you've got shims in there. The fit of this central piece in the Bombay was pretty awful, and so that had to be put in, shims put in, and a little bit super glue filler as well. That's the only way you can get a decent fit of that inside here, but I'm reasonably happy with how it is now. Yeah, I think it's coming along quite well. I won't deny I like Airfix kits. I like how they feel, particularly the new stuff. It is good, just isn't my normal subject matter. I still haven't got hold of the Airfix new Airfix Mk1 one. I really want to order or something. I'll just get hold of one because that's a kit I very much do want to build. Anyway, little update. Next step is going to be to start getting this sprayed. I've basically hit this model with first the interior green all over, then a layer of grey, then a layer of the flat earth. But because I was actually a little bit low on the amount of that I had, I sort of thinned it. I extended it with a little bit of khaki, so it's maybe slightly different tone, but not too far off. The camouflage pattern was, well, basically driven by that, and then just masking with the blue tack pressed down, and now I'm going to hit it with the green, the XF-71 olive green. So that's what's going to it's going to be sprayed with, and Then we'll mask off the upper surfaces and do the black a bit later once all that's cured and I can apply masking tape to the model. So blue tack, and then it was a case of to extend the the flat earth. I sort of mixed it with a bit of khaki. It's not far off on the colour, I think. So a bit more airbrushing. Right, well, after the main run of the painting, here we have it. I think it's close enough to the camo pattern. Well, I'd like to know how much variation there actually was, but you know, it's in the right direction for what it's supposed to be, so I'm happy enough with that. It's recognisably a British camo pattern with its wraparound colours, sort of mirroring the image on between the two sides. So overall, I'm not going to object to that too much. Went on quite well. This is all Tamiya paints. No Vallejo on this one. Might be some for later bits and pieces, but generally speaking, it's an all Tamiya paint up. So no major issues with it going on. Yeah, some paint chipping or peeling around there, and I had to touch up some areas just to get the shape right by brush, but it seems to have blended in okay. Bit of paint chipping there. Black went on quite well. Certainly sheets, no seam lines, which I'm very happy about. Yeah, a little bit of a flat from the sanding there, but nothing significant in terms of the issues. Going to have to caught a little bit of overspray there. That's going to need to be tidying up, but that's nothing too difficult. Yeah, I think it's getting the pattern across. It's not perfect, and it's only now that you really realise how it's not really that mirrored either. So yeah, I'm sure there was a bit of a localised variation, but the core pattern is there. Engines I'm doing more by hand, so I've got the Chromate Green on base. It's easy enough with a shape like this to do it like that, just lengthwise strokes, a couple of coats on the base, and then paint that lot up. The cowling, the front end of the cowling I'm keeping separate, because that'll get finally airbrushed on the outer area. So yeah, it's progressing quite nicely. You never know. I mean, this is just Monday, so it's maybe another 2-week build if I'm going at a steady pace, as long as I get other work and professional related stuff done. I could still make this as a 2-week build, which would be nice. Right, here we are again. We're up to, well, we got, as you can see, we got the camouflage scheme on. And I got the main wheels on. A little bit fiddly, but I do like the assembly. It's going to need another touch up with paint. I do tend to put sometimes a little bit too much super glue on these things, so because of that, is few places it needs a little bit of tidying. I'm happy enough with the camouflage scheme. It's not perfect, but it's near enough for my purposes, and I don't think it looks too bad. And a mixture of brush and airbrush. I'm going to put the tail wheel on, finish off the props, and then I'm going to be hitting this with a layer of Johnson's Klear. we'll then be in a position to get decals on before we start doing any sort of weathering and other fading and adjustment. I know the fabric covered flying surfaces need some tonal adjustment. I could do that with weathering powders, I could do that by spray. There's a number of different approaches I can take on that. I actually think weathering powders may work quite well on that one, just to adjust the tone on those and the elevators as well. So we'll see how that goes. A little bit of, I think, related variation there, but I think we can work through that. So overall, yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with this. It seems to be going in the right direction. Okay, so next stage is getting into more the fun part. As for the base, I'm going to be going for the mixed flocking on that. I'm reasonably happy with this brand as a base. I'm just going to see what it looks like with a mixture of grass and gravel type surface. Don't know, I might even put a little patch of hard standing, so this thing will be sitting something like that. I want it to sit entirely within the remit of the base, so there might be a stretch of runway or concrete there, because when you look at the reference photos, they were parked up on like a compacted grass and gravel mix. So we'll see how that goes. So here we are, a bit more work done on this. Now I'm at the stage now where I can start diving into the weathering. So decals are applied. They've had a few hits of microset and microsol to make sure they conform to the panel lines and settle in properly. Then I've sealed it up with just now with another layer of Johnson's Klear. So it's now ready at a stage where I feel I can do the decaling. Yeah, a few tidies up here and there are necessary, but that's fair enough. So after the weathering, that'll then get sealed down again with a coat of matte coat, and then I'll peel off the masking. The turret is done, as can be seen here. Again, I'll take the masking off at the end. So if I put this to one side, and the base, I'm calling that largely done. Now I need to add the figures to it. I need to add some munitions being loaded up onto it. The small bombs on the forward of the two smaller racks. So this is the perspective to sit like this. And then you'll probably have the officer figure stood cogitating while a couple of armourers finish off the loading up, something like that. The base itself was done in a number of layers. So you've got the concrete, built it up progressively. The longer grass is made from an old toothbrush, where you pull the bristles out and just bed them in, first with PVA, then a drop of super glue, so that secures them quite well, and then spray up a couple of different shades of green and light brown. So maybe I've got too many textures and colours on this, possibly, and maybe there should be more like vehicle tracks in the mud, yeah, possibly, but you know, it's to make the ground look a little bit interesting. It would have been in Malaya, so I would suspect there'd be a bit of a mixture of sunshine and rain. So you don't want the ground, you want the ground to look a bit churned up, but not an utter quagmire. So it's done, as I do so many things in this, just a series of progressive layers, using various greens and brown tones, and PVA plus, again, good old Johnson's Klear. So to create that little puddle there, that's just layer upon layer of Johnson's Klear, and that helps give some of the wetness to this, which I'm quite happy with, to be honest. So other thing, if you look here, spare RAF decal for the roundel, the name, the aircraft description from the decal sheet, and the squadron again from the decal sheet. It's nice to be able to use those things. Sometimes wish they'd print them a little bit larger, but that's on most decal sheets. You'll find that that on there, and so just make use of it, which is what I've done here. So that roundel was from the spare decal set. So again, yeah, it needs a little bit of tidying up on the edge as well. I'll have to attend to that, but it's a simple way of just presenting it in my mind. You've got the spare ordnance there, so they'll probably be arranged on the ground. So reasonably happy with this. That part could have been a bit straighter, maybe it isn't as tidy as it should be, and the ground I think has got a bit too much variety in it. Maybe it's a little bit too rough for what it is, but I'll settle with that. So next phase is the final weathering and the final detail parts assembly. I'm going to have to add the yellow tips to the props, paint up the figures, and just now add the smaller details, the aerials. Once the weathering is done, I'll seal it off with a matte coat, so it doesn't have the shininess to it. So on with the project. So the Blenheim is now pretty much finished. I'm just got to put a little bit more darkening in on the aerial wire. I'm happy with how it's turned out. I think it's gone together reasonably well. The weathering isn't too heavy. Yeah, a couple of little bits and pieces I can spot that need a touch up, which I'll touch up, but that's the Blenheim pretty much done. There's a little bit of misalignment with one of the undercarriage legs, but once it's on the base that won't be noticeable. So overall I really liked how it went together. The figures are now the final element. That's the officer figure. I had to apply a little bit filler around the shoulder joints and that side, so now they're in a position to be painted. So, and a couple of ground crew figures who sort of started off as artillerymen, but they'll be tidied up a little bit and suitably painted. I'll take my time over them so I don't ruin the overall effect. They need, as I say, a little bit more tidying up. The base I consider, as for the most part, is done. I'll have to mount the aircraft on it and the clutter, and I will have to make some wheel chocks as well. So we're now very much final stages of this, and certainly something that I can see as being done and presented, if I pushed ahead with it, even probably by tonight, but I don't want to be in any rush, so certainly one that I'll be able to have everything done on it by the weekend quite comfortably. So the base has been interesting. I've enjoyed applying the different effects and certainly learned a few lessons from doing this. Maybe it's a little bit too rough and the ground should be smoother, but I'm sort of factoring in that the conditions are maybe a little bit wet, humid and everything else, so I want, yeah, maybe the ground is a little bit too chewed up, but I think it's passable. So that's where we're at. There's just a few little touch-ups here and there. I'll present this again once everything is together and then talk over it a bit more. So here it is completed. The figures are painted. You've got the pilot there, or officer, contemplating the aircraft. I sort of tried to paint to him that he's got like drinking something. You've got a couple of ground crewmen, suitably shirtless in the hot weather, and yeah, as is an operational area, they've also got their tin hats on, loading up the remainder of the small ordnance. Maybe the base is a bit too muddy and rough, but personally I'm quite happy with the way it's come together and the way it presents itself. The key elements, why is this suddenly twisted? The key elements are there. The aircraft I'm reasonably pleased with. I don't think I've over-weathered it. I think, yeah, some of the canopy lines aren't quite as good as they should be, but they're reasonable, they're all there. I added some wheel chocks, and yes, this is all glued down, some undercarriage, some wheel chocks. They may be a bit narrow, but I think it'd be wrong if they weren't there. Didn't want to add too much clutter, make it overly busy or overly messy. So you've got the runway the runway taxiway there, the aircraft parked up on the verges, and from the reference photos it does appear to be their situation. I say the main thing I've done is I think I've made the ground too rough, but with that exception, it's done. The aerial wire always gives me some issues, but I think I cope with that a little bit better than I have been lately, and I was glad I put in the second connection wire. One thing that did happen with all the filling and sanding, I completely obliterated a little side window here. I ended up filling that in, and it sort of got lost in because there's a noticeable join line there, which unlike my previous build, I did actually address that. Maybe the painting on the prop is not quite as smooth as it should be. Okay. Beyond that, yeah, I'm glad it's done. I enjoyed the build, and it's nice to do this little run or a series. Slight issue I've got now is I need to sort out, I've used up, with this going on place, I've pretty much used up the last bit of shelf space I've got in here. So before my next build, I've got to put up, I've agreed with my wife where I can put up more shelves outside of the man cave. So I'm going to move all my non-Russian aircraft and models to there, and move my and that'll just make this room much more dedicated just towards the Russian subjects. But I am now being allowed to have more shelves in other parts of the house to deal with the growing rate of builds, and I quite like the idea of separating things out. I am going to be doing more dioramas and bases because I do rather like doing them. Don't know if I'll do them for the Russian aircraft because they are built for collection, but there might be a few that I do. So that's where we're at. This was certainly a project I found myself relishing, and I'm quite happy that I managed to do this in the space of just about 2 weeks, which is a very good build rate for me. Part of me thinks it's more, not on this project I should do that. I think if it's possible, I think I enjoyed this too much and got too stuck into it. So, it's certainly been fun though. So I'll leave you now to the photo series. And thanks for watching, and thanks for your support.